Hi, Year 9 History. This is Dr. Hart here. Obviously, I'm not there in person, but I'm giving it my best shot to be with you, even though I'm not physically with you. Bit of a last minute effort. I'm doing this on Wednesday night, so please forgive me if it is a bit daggy, but I figure it's well better than doing 10 pages of the textbook. So I'm going to start with a bit of a recap. We've been looking at the causes of World War One, and really, if we want to be specific, we're looking at the long-term causes of World War One. So we're going back a couple of decades before World War One began in 1914 and trying to find out why World War One began. So far, you guys have done a map, and here's a map that looks like the one that you did, that actually looks at the different alliance systems in World War One. And you know that there were two teams, if you like, two sides. One was the Triple Entente, and that consisted of Russia, France, and England. And the opposition was known as the Triple Alliance, and that consisted of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. What we've been trying to do since we've looked at this map is work out what these guys were arguing or fighting about. So I've got a couple of documents we're going to be having a look at, and some of them you've seen before. So what you need to do right now, and I'm hoping your teacher will pause this video while you do it, is find the two sheets I gave you on Wednesday. The first sheet, Tuesday, sorry, I gave them to you on Tuesday. The first sheet looks like this. It says Causes of World War One. It's an A3 sheet. If you are absent, not here on Tuesday, don't panic. You'll be able to see it on the screen and perhaps follow along with the person next to you. The second sheet you'll need is this sheet. And here's a sheet that I gave you also on Tuesday, again an A3 sheet, and up the top it's got Causes of World War One. So if you can get those two sheets out, I'd really appreciate it. Term causes of World War One we can summarize as main, and some of these concepts that you'll be learning are quite complex, so don't be too concerned if you find it really difficult in the beginning. So we've talked about militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism as the long-term causes of World War One, and here you'll see some glossary definitions. However, you might find these hard to sort of grasp because these concepts are not simple. So if we go back to this handout that we started on Tuesday, you'll see that it's really easy to think about these concepts in terms of the beliefs underlying these concepts, and the actions that follow on from these concepts. So in class on Tuesday, we worked on militarism in terms of the beliefs, alliances, again the beliefs that underlie those, and imperialism. So as a bit of a recap, what we're going to do right now is we're going to watch a little clip on militarism. And as we're doing that, start to think about whether your definition here about what militarism is in terms of beliefs is accurate. Think also about the kinds of actions that nations take when they are trying to become more militarized. And you'll see these very clearly in the video. So you might even have from this video some examples of militarism amongst the great powers that you can note in this box here. You'll see me wiggling my little mouse there. Okay, so if we go back quickly before I start the video and just remind ourselves that militarism is building up armed forces and getting ready for war. So if militarism is one of the long-term causes of World War One, we might say it was a belief that you needed to build up your armed forces, not just to attack other people, but to defend yourself against possible threats. So let's have a look at that video now.
Okay, so now that we've recapped on militarism and we understand a bit more about militarism, you should be able to complete the boxes here on militarism. So you should have here now what militarism is in terms of a belief and what sort of actions might follow from that belief. So a person who has a belief that you need to have a strong army, that you need to invest in building up your army and your navy, what might they do? You then need to provide some concrete examples of what the great powers such as Germany and Britain did to make sure that they were militarily strong. Once you've done that, we can now start to focus on the second of our big long-term causes of World War I. And that cause, of course, is alliances. And we spent some time doing our map. You'll remember you have a map like this. So what you need to think about here is why would nations, countries, find it important to make allies? In other words, why is it important for them to have mates? And what kind of mates would they want? What would a good ally look like? Would they be someone who shares your values and your ideas? Would they be someone who offers you something that you don't have? Perhaps a strong army. Start to think about what alliances, what a belief in having alliances or needing alliances might mean. It means that you perhaps think you need those alliances to defend yourselves against potential threat. It might also mean that you need a mate to go into battle. So in an offensive way, you need someone to go in and help you attack. What sort of actions might you undertake if you believed that alliances were important? Well, certainly you'd be actively out there trying to make friends. And you'll remember the other day we talked about this being a formal process. It's not just a handshake deal of, yep, I'll look after you. There were formal documents or treaties signed. So if we go back to our table here, can you please fill in alliances? It's a belief that what? You then need to have a think about what sort of actions would follow on from that belief. So if you believed that it was important for you to have strong allies, what might you do? In the far right-hand box, just to re-jog your memory, can you please note down the 3 members of the Triple Alliance and the 3 members of the Triple Entente at the beginning of World War I or 1914? Thanks. To the teacher, if you need to pause this video to enable this to happen, please do, and thank you. Okay, so we've done militarism and alliances. Now we need to think about imperialism, and we started to talk about this in our last lesson. In fact, you might remember that I showed you a few maps. The first map was this one, and this says the British Empire in the 1920s, but it was the same before the 1920s. So this really goes back to at least 10, 15 years before World War I. And the other day in class, we talked about how many colonial powers or colonial sort of countries that Britain had under her wing. And you'll see here Canada, Australia, India, parts of the Sudan, parts of South Africa, all were members of the British Empire in, I'll minimise this because you mightn't be able to see it. So if I minimise this, I just noticed that my whole screen wasn't grabbing it, so you might be able to see it a bit more effectively there. At least I hope you will. Okay, so you'll see here that the British Empire was very effective in acquiring imperial power. This is, of course, dated. This is 1914. Some of these members of the British Empire are no longer members of the British Empire, most notably India. So if we have a look at this, this is Britain, lots of different colonies. You could therefore say that British did have a big empire. Let's compare that to Germany. So here's Germany. And you can see that Germany, as we discussed the other day, has far fewer colonial powers. Start to think about why you would want to have colonies. What might they offer a nation? Certainly they offer a ready supply of support in the form of men for armies, in the form of financial resources. What else do they offer you? Do they offer you that sort of status, that sort of symbolic power that you're not to be messed with? Let's go back to that sheet. Can you please fill in imperialism? It's a belief that you need to fill that in. If you need help, remember, you can go back to this sheet here. And imperialism here is defined as trying to build up an empire. You need to think about why would someone want to build up an empire, particularly if they felt threatened. Why would they want to do that? Okay? Think about what they might do. Now, for a nation like Germany, it's not as simple as going out and just conquering colonies. That's not an option. So what might you do if you can't go out and get more colonies and you felt threatened by the number of colonies that a place or an empire like Britain had? Would you try to build up your military in response? Would you try to forge alliances with other nations who had colonies they could draw on? The important point of what I'm saying here is these long-term causes are all interrelated. They don't stand alone. So if you felt that you didn't have a big empire and you had no way of really sort of expanding your empire fast, what you might do is you might go out and get some allies. You might build up your army and navy. Have a think about that kind of thing. The last one that we're going to be doing today, the last long-term cause of World War I, is nationalism. Now, nationalism is a tricky thing because all people in some ways are nationalist. They are proud of their nation. And remember, of course, the definition here is having pride in your country, willing to defend it. Now, it's not just pride, it's extreme pride. Nationalism is a real commitment, a real loyalty to making sure that you would defend your national pride. So nationalism was a very powerful motivator for getting people to sort of get behind their country. So nationalism is a belief that you need to have a population, a general population, who were really behind your country, really committed, really willing to give anything for your country. And in terms of World War I, this included your own life. And if you believed that nationalism was important, what would you do? How would you encourage people in your country to be nationalist? If you were Kaiser Wilhelm II, Kaiser here means king. If you're the king of Germany, Kaiser Wilhelm II is the king of Germany. If you're the king of Germany, how might you encourage people to feel nationalist? Think about the kinds of flags and symbols and ceremonies and groups that nations have and how they might use those to encourage people to do anything for their nation. Now, you'll see that the far right-hand box here that says, how did nationalism cause tension? That's a bit too advanced at the moment. We'll deal with that next lesson. But what you could do is the one above it. Which of the great powers were more effective in extending their imperial rule and why? Can you have a go at that one, please? Of course, the video may now need to be paused. Okay, now that we've completed our table of definitions in terms of beliefs and actions, I'd like you to do task 1 here on this sheet. Teacher, you may need to pause the video. Thank you very much. Okay, welcome back, guys. You've done quite a bit of work now, so for some relaxation, for a bit of a sit back, I have taken Liam Grant's great advice and found some of the songs that he recommended, and I love them. Liam, I loved that your suggestion for Mind Heist from Zach Hempsey was actually the soundtrack to the History of the World in 2 Minutes that I showed you guys on day 1 of this term. So there you go. I had actually heard it. So sit back, have a look at these. Welcome back, guys. You'll notice on this sheet here that task 2, question 1 and 2, we've already completed in doing our map. I'd like you to do task 3 or question 3. It's not task 3, it's question 3 from task 2 now. Not a difficult one. Teacher, can you please pause the video? welcome back, guys. Our final task for today is to consolidate your understanding of our acronym MAIN. Of course, MAIN here, militarism, alliances, just made a mistake then, imperialism and nationalism. To consolidate your understanding, I'm going to ask you to do a written task. Your task is this. Which of the 4 long-term causes of World War I do you think was the most influential, the most important? What was the biggest cause of these 4? Now, I understand that you're starting from sort of a knowledge base of only this lesson and last lesson. That's okay. I want you to pick one of these 4, identify it. So you're going to say, I think the main cause, or one of the most influential causes of World War I was, and you name it. You're then going to explain why you think it was the most important or influential cause. And here you have to refer to some specific detail. So go back to your sheets that you've just completed. Have a think about this. This task is for completion for homework if you don't finish it, and I'll be checking on Monday and starting from this point. Have a great weekend, guys, and thanks for tuning in today.